Good afternoon, my good people. It's Bridget back again from It's Your Time, and I am just so excited and tanked up to share our next episode as we go through the Capricorn journal and the insert inside. It has been a busy week, moving and shaking, doing all the adulting. So, this is the highlight of my week to sit down and share with you. So last week we did Who Do You Need to Forgive? And I'm going to skip a couple of entries and go on to the fourth. And says, what is something you've sacrificed to achieve what you want in life? So it brought to mind a story really about how I got to California. I've shared with you in the past that I am a registered nurse by trade, been in the ICU for the last 34 years. Also a single mom. So my daughter, basically to kind of shape her life, I decided that I was going to help her skip all the craziness that goes on in, you know, the possibilities of getting in trouble in school, being exposed to all the people with the drugs, the this, the that. So I sent her to Christian boarding school Monday through Friday for her junior high years. She went to a school up in New Hampshire, and so she would go to school Monday through Friday, and then either I would or she would come home for the weekend. So during that time, of course, there's always that's a huge sacrifice. First and foremost, just being without your child. But I wanted her to have a life of being able to be involved with extracurricular activities and having like the sisterhood, because she was an only child. So being in the boarding school, there were girls and boys, of course, housed differently, from all over the world. She had classmates from Korea, the Bahamas, the United States, Japan, and it just, I thought, would be a great rounding experience to start life, as a young child, because, that's when they form, they get their ideas, they learn who they are, and also it would afford her the time to be involved with things and not be beholden to my schedule, because I was still working two jobs at the time. As you know, New York is a really expensive place to live, and being a single person, you need two incomes a lot of times to have a decent place to live, and car and insurance and things like that. So we'd gotten through those years, and when it was time for her to go to college, she decided to go to a school down in Florida, which was fabulous and fine. We were excited. She goes on to Florida, and I signed up with a agency where I was doing my second job. So I would work a full-time job for, at a hospital. Then I did some agency work just to go in and do extra shifts at this agency. So they had a travel division at this agency, and I signed up to take 3 months off of my full-time job, because in the summers the census drops. Now that was way back some 25 years ago, when the census does not drop anymore. It's unfortunate, but people are sick in the summer, sometimes as sick, especially with all the travel, the flu, the COVID, all the things now. But I took time off. Instead of them calling you every day and saying, oh, we're going to give you the day off, I took 3 months off so that I could take a travel assignment in Hawaii, because I couldn't really afford a vacation per se, but I wanted something for myself to kind of celebrate that my daughter made it out. She made it out. She made it through school. She made it to college. So I signed up, ready to go, had the time off, and then I get a phone call about a week before I'm supposed to leave. And they said, we have a change in the contract. They want a med-surg nurse, a float med-surg nurse that would float around all the med-surg units in the hospital. And any nurses out there know that, first off, floating is super stressful because it's not your home floor. You're not used to all the stuff that's there. A lot of people think a nurse is a nurse is a nurse, and that's not true. And I'd never done med-surg before. I'd always done ICU. So I said, that's not going to work for me. It was actually scary because as an ICU nurse, you micromanage 1 to 2 really sick patients, well, 3 over on the East Coast. But, and as a med surg nurse, you would have 7 to 8, sometimes 12 patients. I had no experience with that, didn't even know how to make my mind think that. So they said, okay, let's see what else we have. And they said, well, the second best thing, we have a night shift contract in California, in San Diego. And I was like, oh, well, I've always wanted to go to California. And I think actually I'd gone, by that time I'd gone to California once. I'd gone to Yosemite for, I think, a week and a half of camping in Yosemite. It was cold at the time, but it was still fabulous. I still got a chance to see one of the great wonders of the United States, probably one of the great wonders of the world, Yosemite. So I said, okay, I'll take it. So I'm there, I'm working nights. I was able to find a really nice place, really close to work, maybe 2-3 miles, really good crew of people on nights. And normally during night shift at about 3 or 4 o'clock, that's when you go in and you get labs, you do ABGs, you get the patient ready for the day. If they have to be cleaned up a bit, you get them ready to get up and get in the chair and all that. And the phone was ringing, and the secretary wasn't there. The phone was ringing incessantly, and sometimes it's like that because departments are saying, is it okay to come up and do an X-ray? They have labs that they want to drop off the tubes for, all kinds of stuff. And the fax machine was going off. So I was like, let me just go answer the phone. Let me be a team player. I'm going to go answer the phone. So I went out, and by the time I tried to pick up the phone, the person had hung up. But the phone and the fax, of course, are side by side. So the fax on the fax machine was a paper that it was an advertisement for nurses in the area to come visit the new opening of one of the larger health system hospitals in the area. It was Sharp Hospital. Those of you who know California know Sharp Memorial. It's a really good healthcare system. Of course, I didn't know that at the time, but so I looked at it and I said, okay, I'm going to make some copies for all the nurses that was there. And on my day off, I bought in and I was like, okay, I'll come, RSVP. They had dinner and snacks, and you get to, go through a whole field trip of the hospital, in the rooms, radiation, radiology, the different places that the patients would go that you'd be sending them. Great state of the art. I mean, fabulous. I had never seen anything like it. In New York, they had really good hospitals, but this was brand new. And these people, they had private money to build this hospital. It was like a 32-bed open heart trauma unit. So the rooms were huge, like 3 times the size of anything that I'd been used to. Like these big booms would come down out of the ceiling and drop down, and there would be places to put the x-ray on for the doctor to look at, plugs and suction and all of that, so you could move that stuff in and out of your way as you're in the room. And then it was also enough room to bring another bed in, or stretcher, dialysis machine, all the fun things. So I go there and we're having a great time and great food, and at the end they said, well, we're collecting information, resumes, or if you want to drop your card, just kind of it sounded like they were recruiting. And I was like, oh no, I'm only here for another 4 weeks at the time. I don't want to leave my information, but it was really nice. I enjoyed being here, and thank you so much for the opportunity. There's it can't hurt. Even just drop your information, just so we have an idea of what demographic that we serve today and all that kind of stuff. So I dropped my card in there, my information. I go and I finish my assignment, go back home, and I get a phone call from their recruiting department. And they said that they'd be very interested in seeing my resume. And I was like, I really don't have any interest in working in California. I'm a New Yorker, I'm an East Coaster at heart. I had no idea of or intention of moving across the country at that stage in my life, right? So, but they somehow did finagle my resume out of me. I sent them my resume. They called back. They said that we're offering recruitment and retention bonuses. We will move you out here, all your belongings, help you find a place, ship your car, give you a $5,000 bonus in the beginning to help you get started, and then a $5,000 retention bonus at the end of 6 months for you to stay. So I was like, that's an awful lot of that's an awful lot of money. I'm thinking, these people, where's all this money coming from, and what's the problem? Why can't they find nurses to work in this unit? But I'm telling you, this unit was fabulous. I thought about it, I prayed about it, and I've always been the kind of person that could get up and move at the drop of a hat, but never like that. My daughter and I moved a couple different places while she was little, just to have nicer places. One time to get a place with a garage, to make sure we were in a nicer neighborhood. So I wasn't immune to or opposed to moving, and I would do whatever I felt, in my heart to do, and whatever I wanted to do. I wanted a better life. So I actually signed on. I said, okay, and let me tell you, the the flack that I received from people, family, my brother, he was alive at the time. He was like, what is it with you? Why do you have to be this gypsy? What is your problem? Why can't you got a good job. Why are you going to give that up and go way over there? You don't know what's over there. The people in my church, now there were some people who thought it was a good idea. They're like, look, if you feel peace, if God's leading you to do that, you should do that and not let anybody influence you either way. But most people were like, your support system's here. Why would you want to leave? But like I said, my daughter was gone. She had gone off to college. She was going to be gone for 4 years. She would be coming home for the holidays and the summer breaks. But there was really no reason, no logical reason for me to stay there when God was opening a door for a whole new life for me. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time, but I did take it, and it was part of the setup. When it's your time, it's your time. The doors that open for you, you will only see those opened by God. No one can close them. Sometimes it's even a little scary for you to walk through them when God opens those doors. So I decided to do that, and I'm telling you, one of the best things that I've done in my life. California is the mecca for nurses. It's a whole new world over here. The legalities, the laws, the unions protect and help nurses. The ratios are different. Like back in New York, I would have like 3 super sick ICU patients, vented, all these things. And in California, the ratios are like 1 to 2 ICU patients, and where you can really actually take care of the patient. You can really, be proactive in saving lives. Back on the East, telemetry and med-surg nurses would get anywhere from 8 to 12 patients. In California, they get 4 to 5. You are mandated to take breaks in California. We never took breaks on the East Coast. We would sit at the nurse's station, eat our lunch while we were charting, because that's just how it was. You don't really have time for that. And not even mentioning the weather difference. I remember the snowstorms, you have to make it to work. First off, you gotta go. People are depending on you. The place doesn't close like, other businesses for snow. There are patients in the hospital. There are people coming into the hospital. I remember being in the snowstorm, driving, 2 to 3 hours where normally I, drove like an hour to get to work, because I lived in the suburbs of New York, and I worked in Manhattan and Westchester County. So it could be 2 to 3 hours getting to work, and then work the 12 hours. A lot of times it ran into 16, 20 hours. You could go someplace and take a nap for like 2 or 4 hours and get up and start working again, because nurses couldn't make it in. They would send, the security guards and the maintenance workers to local nurses' houses to pick them up in the snow to make sure that somebody would come in for us. But it was just a hard thing. Of course, I didn't think it was hard at the time. I love nursing. That is my love. I never wanted to do anything else. Once I got in it, this is what I love. This is part of who I am. But it was hard. Now looking back at it, that's 24 hours, and I have a child at home, and so it was tough. So a lot of that stuff weighed into why she actually spent the school week, at school. Getting back to California, the weather, and I landed in San Diego, Southern California, which is the best weather in California. It is always mild. I think the lowest it gets is maybe like 60 during the day, maybe 40s at night, and that's a whole party for people that are used to the cold, cold and snow. When you're 0 degrees or 12 degrees. And also just being able to be out in the sun, it's proven just the sun getting to your retina, the vitamin D release, just being able to move around, being out and about, being able to walk. Um, Here in California, we have more access to fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, I ate well when I was on the East Coast, or I thought I did. I mean, but the vegetables might have been frozen. I would have like whatever was in season, um, at different times. But in California, you're right next to Mexico. We have the best avocados and just everything at your fingertips. Had no idea. Now, of course, it was a sacrifice and a change when I first got here. Just getting used to the lifestyle, a lot slower, relaxed. And that sounds like a good thing, and it was a good thing. But in the beginning, I would just go to the grocery store or be in the parking lot trying to find a park, and the people would just be meandering through the parking lot, just clueless that people are waiting to come through. But in California, the pedestrians have the right of way. Not so in New York. In New York, you get out of the way. You obey the traffic and the cars. You protect your life in New York. So I would remember being so frustrated, like, what is wrong with these people? And then I would talk to people, and they would say, no, you're the one that's in the wrong. You need to slow down and give them the leeway. They're the ones that are given the grace, right? So little things like that. And the food being different. Couldn't find a good pizza. Couldn't find a good sandwich out here when I first got here. The food is great out here. It's just different. It's different. Having to find new community, a new church, friends. And I thought in the beginning, well, I'll come out here and I'll have 2-3 bedrooms, and my family or friends will come to visit. And not so. To this day, my family, I don't think a whole lot of them have come to visit. But, I have had a couple of friends, even had a friend that came and stayed for about a year. When she moved from the East Coast too, she came out, and so I was able to be a help to her when she made her transition. She's since moved back, but was able to come out here and pursue her nurse anesthesia degree. This is probably about 8 years ago now. But all the sacrifices, all the comforts or what I thought was comforts, I put on the line for a better life. Got paid more in California. Our pay rates are higher. The ease of actually really being able to make a difference, really being able to be part of the cohesive healthcare team. It was just a dream come true, a dream that I didn't even know I really had. I always wanted to impact my career, make a difference, and you just on a daily basis, just come in, give your all to your patients and their families every day. But I always wanted to be part of the bigger picture. I wanted to do more, as much as I possibly could. So when that door opened, it was a setup from God to have more, to do better. And if I had not been able to lean on when God speaks to you and you get the check in your spirit that something is good for you or bad for you, at this point, things were good. I did share the other story when things were not so good, when I shared with you what happened in that first marriage. But just to encourage you that when it's your time, go ahead and walk through that door. Ask God for the strength if you need the strength. The writing is on the wall. When something is so easy, you couldn't have made it happen for yourself. I couldn't have made those things happen for myself. I couldn't have just sent a resume in and been been hired at a glance. And offered that type of ease had it not been a true blessing and it not have been my time to get out and move to a better place in my life. So I share all that, and I hope that that encourages someone today to make the choice for you. Put you at the top of the list. Make yourself a priority. If you enjoyed this, if you got anything from this, please like, subscribe if you feel led to. If you know someone that this could be beneficial to, if you have a nurse friend or any kind of friend for that matter, friend, family, that you think this would resonate with, it would be my pleasure and honor for you to share it. I'm looking forward to sharing more because this journal has turned out to be quite a good outline for life change in the life of a Capricorn, but I'm pretty sure in the life of everybody. It's just labeled the Capricorn Journal. But it's been a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be with you again, and I will see you guys again the next time. Blessings.